Hello everyone. Welcome to the Clarity Release 16.3.2 Feature Supportability Training. This presentation has been prepared by Catherine Ellis, a Clarity Product Manager. In this video, we will explore the latest enhancements to resource staffing. These improvements aim to streamline the staffing process, enhance usability, and provide better insights for staffing managers. Key features include viewing dates in a single column, additional histogram metrics in the resource summary mode, expanded reallocation and replacement staffing actions, and various usability enhancements. Are you looking to optimize your staffing views for better resource management efficiency? One of the standout features of this release is the ability to view dates in a single column. This change simplifies the interface and allows staffing managers to quickly assess timelines and schedules without adding extra columns to get the information. With this new enhancement, the exception dates do not stand out. Showing a visual indicator for changed values from the default values on allocation percent, allocation dates, and TSV per period fields provides a quick method to determine which records have been explicitly modified. Our administrator, Ian, logs into the system to view these new enhancements in the staffing workspace. Here in the timeline, the default layout uses the investment start and finish dates. Let's add in the allocation start and finish date fields. After expanding this investment, Ian can see the investment dates are now showing up in the allocation date fields. To distinguish between the default investment dates and the allocation-specific exception dates, Ian opens the View options and enables the option to show an indicator on non-default values. Hovering over the field reveals a tooltip. When there are any changes to allocation metrics, the default allocation percent field will have an indicator. The indicator is shown for changes to the allocation start or finish date, the total allocation, or any period amount. As you can see, there are some periods with the indicators because there are numbers that are not generated from the allocation default percent setting. The staffing manager now has the ability to reset the changed value back to the amount based on the current default allocation percent by simply clearing out the field. The amount is recomputed and the visual indicator disappears. Let's change the value back to 160 hours. Let's remove the investment start and finish date columns and save the new configuration for the allocation dates and indicators in our view. These enhancements are now available across all staffing pages, here in this workspace, in an investment, and within a hierarchy staff module. Let's look at the staff grid. This view has been configured with the allocation date fields and the visual indicators. Let's drill into an investment and see the configuration there. And the final location for this configuration is available within the Hierarchy Staff module. One administrative point regarding displaying the investment dates in the allocation date fields. There is a feature toggle available. Let's temporarily disable the toggle. The behavior has reverted to the pre-upgrade behavior. The investment dates no longer appear in the allocation date columns. You'll notice the exception dates don't have the visual indicator because it is easy to identify them. Let's re-enable the new feature. In a future release, this toggle will be removed and the new behavior will be enforced, for which you will always see the investment dates in the allocation date fields. The additional benefits of having both the investment date and the allocation exception date in a single column is having the ability to use the field for grouping or filtering. Let's group by the allocation start date. The data is now nicely grouped by month, which is the standard grouping interval for date fields used in a group by configuration. Expanding the groups, you can see the items that fall within the grouping interval. Let's use the allocation start date in the filter to reduce the list of results. I want to only view items that start after April 30th. Get ready to say goodbye to those confusing date discrepancies with the incredible flexibility to analyze staffing data in a whole new way using group by and filtering for the allocation dates. This, along with the dazzling visual indicators to highlight any non-default data, is like a superpower for your staffing management. Staffing managers rely on accurate capacity calculations to ensure they have enough resources to meet investment demands for work. Since roles don't directly correspond to individual availability, including them in capacity calculations would lead to inaccurate results. By eliminating the potential for confusion caused by roles in capacity calculations, staffing managers can make more informed decisions about the demand for work from both named resources and roles without including the role availability in the capacity calculations. Let's look at this new system option in clarity. A resource manager may look at the properties for roles with the availability and remaining availability fields configured, which is not really necessary for roles. As you can see, the numbers appear for the roles using the existing functionality, which is the default state after upgrading to release 16.3.2. Let's go into the staffing workspace to look at the staffing records for resources and roles. The grid here also shows the role availability and remaining availability amounts. Let's go into a timeline page. When looking at the resource histogram using the view of resources grouped by primary role, we can see that the availability from the role is included in the aggregation that is rolled up into the grouping. In this example, looking at January, you can see the total availability of 552 is including 184 hours for the architect role. This causes the manager to think the demand is less than the actual capacity. Both Valerie and Joyce have 184 available hours in January. Therefore, only the total availability of 368 hours should appear in the grouping row to provide a more accurate utilization. Let's go into classic administration system options. The new option is located in the section for the new user experience. By default, after upgrading, the option is enabled to display the numbers for roles. Disabling this option will allow roles to be used for allocation demand without impacting the capacity calculations. When a role is staffed to an investment, the availability rate will still determine the allocation amount. Let's uncheck the box and click the Save button to update the system. Returning to the staffing workspace, let's refresh the browser page to see the updated numbers. Here it shows the 552 total. Aggregated totals are updated, and the utilization is more accurately reflected without the role availability amount. Let's go into the Resources workspace and look at the properties for roles with the option disabled. Both the availability and remaining availability fields are now empty for roles. From this point forward, you no longer need to add these columns in this grid. And finally, let's look at the staffing workspace grid. The availability and remaining availability fields are empty for the roles. The resources and teams still show their numbers. The Staffing Resource Summary mode provides a visual representation of resource allocation demand versus available capacity metrics. We've added % utilization and remaining availability metrics to give you a clearer picture of how your team is performing. % utilization reflects how much of the team's time is currently allocated to projects. A high percentage indicates a busy resource, while a low percentage might suggest underutilization or opportunities to reallocate resources. Remaining availability shows how much time the staff member has available for new projects or tasks. This metric helps determine if the team can handle additional work or needs adjustments to prevent overallocation. By understanding utilization and remaining availability, you can make more informed decisions about balancing the workload and finding the right people to fulfill new requests. Let's return to the staffing workspace and use the resource summary mode. Upon upgrade to release 16.3.2, the resource summary mode is not immediately configured to show the new enhancements. There is an administrative feature toggle to enable it for this release. Therefore, it does not have an immediate impact to the end users after upgrade. Let's review the existing functionality. The hamburger menu is the same as it was in the pre-upgrade release. It has one option to hide or show the histogram chart. When it is hidden, only the allocation aggregated totals are shown. When it is shown, it displays the histogram with the allocation versus availability aggregations. As in the prior release, the user can have up to 3 grouping fields, but is prevented from moving any field before the required resource field. Let's look at the administrative feature toggle. When this feature is enabled, the resource summary mode will allow movement of other grouping fields before the required resource grouping attribute, and new histogram metrics will be available. It is important to note that the best configuration is to also disable the new system option to turn off the role availability and remaining availability amounts, for which we have already disabled in this system. Let's enable this new feature. Let's return to the staffing workspace. I'll demonstrate this with the allocation field, but it also applies to total usage and hard allocations. With the feature enabled, we can move a field, such as the primary role, before the resource field. By expanding the primary role grouping, you can see the allocation and availability aggregations are rolled up without the role availability. This is what we saw on the resource histogram in the timeline page. New options are on the totals hamburger menu. The existing hide histogram chart is still available. While the histogram chart is shown, a new submenu is available with multiple choices for displaying a number on top of the histogram chart. By default, it shows the existing number for allocations versus availability. The option for none simply shows the histogram bars without any number. The option for % utilization is the result of the allocation divided by the resource availability. The metric for availability minus allocation is also known as remaining availability. This is the result of the total allocations minus the resource availability. A negative number indicates more demand than there is for available capacity. When the user selects the option to hide the histogram chart, the allocation numbers appear without the histogram bars. In essence, these new histogram metrics provide valuable insights into the utilization and availability of your staffing resources, empowering you to make more informed decisions about resource allocation. The new histogram visualizations are a game changer. Now, staffing managers can see exactly how busy their team is and how much capacity they have, all in one place. And with the handy new actions to reallocate or replace staff, they can quickly adjust resources to fit those needs, ensuring the right people are always in the right place at the right time. We're talking efficient staffing magic. The new reallocation function lets staffing managers tweak project timelines and resource allocation with lightning-fast precision. Want to adjust the total duration or just a specific date range? No problem. Need to fine-tune the allocation percentage based on a resource's availability? Done. It's like having a magic wand to effortlessly reshape and optimize staffing assignments. Do you want to replace someone for the entire duration or just a specific date range? It's all at your fingertips. And once the swap is done, you can fine-tune those allocation amounts manually or with the handy reallocation function. Let's look at the new enhancements. Here in the staffing grid, while in the resource summary mode or in a flat grid, the staffing manager can perform reallocations or replacements. Let's replace this role with a named person. As we expand the business analyst role and the resource Randy Quinn, we can see that Randy is available in July for fulfilling the role on one of the requested investments. From the Context Action menu, both the Reallocate and Replace actions are available. Let's select the Replace action. The dialog box shows the existing business analyst role and the investment name with the existing allocation dates shown. A labor resource or team must be selected for the replacement for this labor role. Let's set the start date in July. Any date within the boundaries of the investment dates can be selected for a replacement action. A replacement action only allows for selection of a resource and the date parameters. There is no option to change the allocation amount. There is a new section in the dialog for an override type. By default, the total override type is selected. This will allow the manager to completely replace the existing allocation with the specified allocation date range, and the role will be removed. If an existing person is being replaced that has actuals, that person will remain on the investment even when there is a total replacement. The partial replacement option is the desired choice for this use case. The business analyst role will retain some of the allocations, and Randy will get some of the allocations. Let's complete the action. Once the action has been processed, the page will refresh, and if the filtering allows both records to appear, you'll see the existing business analyst record has been updated and Randy Quinn will have a new allocation record for the dates selected. These actions are also available inside the specific investment staff module. Let's quickly go into an investment, and I'll show you where you can find it. Using the right-click action, the context menu appears with these new actions. Let's go back to the staffing workspace and look at the timeline for another example. I'll demonstrate the replacement functionality using the drag and drop. However, the replace action is also available using the right-click action from the allocation row in the timeline. This investment has some role requests. In the histogram, we have some people that are available to work. Let's split the architect allocation between two people. Vince Olivia can work the first half of the duration. Dragging and dropping Vince onto the architect role brings up the replacement dialog. The dialog shows the existing staff properties, and the resource field is pre-populated with Vince's name. We want Vince to consume the first half of the request. Let's specify the finish date to May 2nd. Any specified dates for the replacement action must be within the date range of the investment. Select the partial option and complete the replacement action. The architect role is still staffed with the remaining allocation. Vince is added as a staff member with the specified allocation up through May 2nd. Now let's drag Adriana onto the architect role to replace the remaining total amount. The dialog appears with the existing allocation properties and the default override type set to total. You can see that the information is pulling up the current properties for the dates. Because we want to fulfill the entire remaining allocation, we can keep the override type set to total. Let's complete the replacement action. The replacement is successful. Once the screen refreshes, you can see Adriana appears and the architect role has been removed from the investment. Let's go through another example for reallocation and a replacement. For the requested project manager role, let's update the allocation first, then do a replacement. Let's change the last 2 months of the allocation to 50%. Only the last 2 months are updated, and as the indicators show, it is changed from the default. The total allocation is now 444 hours. Let's find a project manager that is available to fulfill this role. We need to filter for the project manager role. Paula looks like she is available. Let's drag her name up to the project manager role. Because we want to fulfill the total allocation, no changes are needed in the dialog. The replacement is successful. Paula has the properties of the modified role request, and the role is removed from the investment. If you examine Paula's histogram, she has an over-allocation and some other allocations that fall between 100% and the threshold setting. As part of this release, a small improvement is showing this gray color above in the timeline. In the prior release, the gray did not appear, and therefore was not easy to identify numbers meeting this criteria. You will notice the numbers for roles won't have color because roles don't have availability, and this will be true for other staff without availability for the period. The ability to make partial reallocation updates and staff allocation replacements for specific timeframes is a powerful tool that empowers investment managers to be more adaptable, efficient, and responsive to the dynamic nature of projects. This ultimately contributes to improved resource utilization, better project outcomes, and greater overall success. In the prior release, the new staffing scenarios functionality and enhanced investment business rules were introduced. As a continuation to improve the overall usability of this new feature, the process flow has been enhanced. Your staffing managers are now empowered to make more informed and efficient staffing decisions by improving scenario control, facilitating collaboration, and streamlining the process of managing changes to staffing plans. This leads to better resource allocation and more adaptable strategies that align with evolving business needs. Let's dive into the new changes. Ian has been working on some proposed scenario changes. In this view, we can see each investment has a different blueprint associated. The project infrastructure blueprint has an active rule that prevents anyone that is not the manager from changing the staffing allocation start and finish dates. This works as expected here, in non-scenario mode. When Ian tries to click into the start or finish dates, it is not editable. Here in the details flyout, it is easy to see the fields are locked by a business rule. The Acme Managed Services project is associated with a different blueprint. Let's see if the fields are editable here. Yes, the field is editable. Ian is not the current manager of this investment, but the associated blueprint does not have this rule, and therefore he is allowed to edit the allocation date. Let's go into the scenario. Let's expand the eBusiness Mobile Network project and try to edit the dates while in scenario mode. As expected, the date fields are not editable. Now in this release, Ian cannot move the bar because of the rule. The end of the bar for the start and finish date is also locked based on this rule. All other allocation records on this project meet the rule criteria and are not allowed to have date changes either while in or out of scenario mode. Let's update this other project with some scenario changes to the allocation dates. This project is associated with a different blueprint. Making a change directly in the allocation date field is allowed. The end of the bar moves in based on the new finish date. Let's move the other end of the bar to change the start date. Managing the changes in a staffing scenario now has comprehensive capabilities to make it easier to make changes while adhering to the business rules. Your staffing managers will be excited for the improved capability to streamline sharing their scenarios. Ian can select one or more people or groups enabled for sharing to share through a multi-select lookup, without having to click on the button multiple times to add people. Changes have been made, and the scenario is shared. Now Ian can preview all the changes in the scenario with new usability enhancements. A new selection action bar is now available to select all investment scenario changes. Let's deselect all investments and just select one investment. Ian does not want the changes made for the EMEA GDPR certifications project to be published. He selects it and now can reset the changes. The investment is removed and no longer appears in the preview. At this time, Ian is not ready to publish the other investments. Let's look at the removed changes for the EMEA GDPR certifications project. As you can see, while still in this scenario, there are no comparison changes for this investment. Wow, these new features are a game changer for staffing managers. Now, with the power to share scenarios with multiple teams, remove unwanted changes, and reset or publish across multiple investments, staffing managers have the tools they need to master their staffing game. These enhancements streamline staffing management by improving date visualization, resource visibility, scenario control, and user experience. This results in greater flexibility and efficiency in managing staffing scenarios and optimizing resource allocation. The updates empower users to make more informed decisions and adapt to changing business needs. Thank you for your attention. This concludes the Staffing Enhancements section. Please review the release notes and the Upgrade Change Impact Guide for additional information.